Here in the United States, we need to take a real look at who we are and what our role is in an ever changing world. And we're going to have to recognize the United Nations because the United Nations is the governing body of the world and also should be the ones responsible for the fundraising efforts in things like FEMA relief efforts, in things like border control, and in things across the country and across the world that involve a united effort amongst all peoples to improve and better serve the world. I know it's difficult for the United States to release or relinquish the power uh, in the world to allow other governing bodies to make decisions. But as we have um, spread out our military and spread out our monies uh, in efforts to make the world a better place, we have neglected quite a few things here at home. And I think it would be a good time for the next president, hopefully a Democrat, to sit down with the United Nations and world leaders and say, look, there are simple solutions out there for things like the crisis in Russia, to where we need to let them know that this is not okay, just as we need to let them know the same thing in Mexico. We have an issue where there are people, families, and children who are seeking refuge elsewhere. And when you see a migration pattern like we see with the Mexicans and like we see in the Ukraine, Yugoslavia, and other countries in the Soviet blocs, we have to recognize that they started migrating away from something for a reason. And that's where the United Nations needs to step in and see if we are following all the guidelines on humanitarian treatment in countries where we have these mass exoduses. And then to sit down and begin to delegate and begin to try to fix the problem or alleviate it with all the different perspectives that the United Nations brings to the table. It should give us a better, more fair answer for whatever block or region the problem is in. The United States has spent quite a bit of money and lost a lot of soldiers in wars in the Middle East. And the Middle East may be the most complicated of all the regions of the world, not only because of religion, but because of the demand for oil and the complicated situation that remains with OPEC as far as who to please and who not to please, with power balances that change regularly in the region due to, coups and terrorist organizations, due to religious influence, and all the other walls and barriers, if you will, that create a satisfied region and a supplier of the world's oil. Once we begin to relinquish some of these obligations that we've taken on over the past decades, we may be able to focus on things at home, like what I have called the welcome stations or welcome centers or missions, being placed and built by some of the elite, be it the NFL, be it World Soccer and FIFA, be it the oil companies, building places of refuge for these immigrants, even if they're detained immigrants, to put them in these situations where they can put tools in their toolbox, become educated, learn crafts and trades, and go back to Mexico better equipped to provide for their families. Because the last thing we want to see are the things that we're seeing now on world news reports where children are being taken away from their mothers and fathers in some kind of an effort to better serve the child, but to cut costs by sending the parents back. I think that any human being you sit down with believes that there's better solutions than that. And I think that if we all uh, pressure the United Nations a little bit and demand that they come up with better answers and that they meet with the Pope and the King and Queen of England and different people in the region to try to come up with better solutions for their refugees and their crisis that they have. We can make the world a better, more safer place, a place with more educated people who have better chances to contribute to the overall goal of man, which is to live productive, peaceful lives and to enjoy our families and to be able to lay our heads down at night, knowing that we are safe, that we are still who we became through our life's experiences and the teachings of our parents and ancestors, and that we're safely able to conduct our lives in a manner in which we choose as Americans, instead of being forced to participate in theologies or practices that we don't condone just for the safety or the lack of interference from the government in our own homes. Thank you.